Good coffee, but great spud nuts. Hello and welcome to Best Motorcycle Roads. I'm Tom.
And I'm Todd. We have over 65 years of combined motorcycling experience and 30 years of planning and riding motorcycle trips. We're here to share with you everything we've learned over those years.
Our goal at Best Motorcycle Roads is simple. Make your next motorcycle trip the best it can be. We'll dive into technology, planning, packing, the routes, and other tips, and everything in between.
From essential prep to unforgettable routes, we've got you covered.
Before we kickstart today's journey, we ask you to sign up for our BMR Rider Alerts. It's our way of keeping you in the loop with the latest rides, tips, and stories. We promise no spam, only the essentials to enhance your motorcycle adventures. Join the BMR crew today. We'll put a link in the show notes. This segment about motorcycle gear reviews and tips we call the Toolkit. Are you buckled in, Todd? Because the Toolkit's going to get a little technical today.
All right.
So, a lot of people have heard of GPS devices, they're navigators, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we're going to talk about today is GPS trackers. So that's different. So what this is doing is tracking your waypoints as you go.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of pick back up later and check it out. So basically, there used to be, I started looking for them when I was prepping for this, and there just isn't as many of the little trackers that you can buy anymore. Everything is like, stick a magnet on your wife's car and track where the hell she's going, and it's a subscription for $19.95 a month.
Don't do that.
So, because it used to be, what I used to have is a lot, I think they were popular when people were taking photos with like digital cameras that didn't have GPS in it, because you'd take that little dongle with you and it would track wherever you're at with that time. And then when you got back, you could combine the GPS data into the photo.
Yep.
Well, apparently those are no good anymore. No go. So there's basically two different ways to do it now. There's hardware devices and then there's software. That mostly goes on your phone. So the big, really, like the leader by far is called the spot trackers.
Mm-hmm.
There's three different types. Very popular with like hiking, especially like when they're hiking in like more dangerous situations.
Yep.
And their most expensive one has like even a little radio, satellite like connection.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another one that's in between, and then the last one is kind of just a tracker. But what these do is they do ping off like satellites, and then there's you can actually give people a link to see where your tracks are at. So that's one thing. So if you're going to get serious and you're riding a lot, I highly recommend these for two reasons. One, they can also detect crashes a lot of times, and they're pretty reasonably priced. I mean, I think it's anywhere from like $100 to $300 for the device, and then it's usually like $100 or so for the service for the year. So that's kind of the hardware side. And then when you get your GPS, you know, like your navigation devices, like a Garmin, you can actually click on your tracks, and I think it'll save them as well. So you can save it with those, but you have to do a little reading on that. But then there's also software. So, there's two different ones, and basically you just install the software, and then you can fire them up, and they'll start to track. And there's one for Android that's called Bubbler, and that's bubblergps.com. And the iPhone one is called SW Tracker. And it must be used a lot, must have been originated from RV guys, because it's rvtechtools.com/SW Tracker. But both of those are apps that you can install that don't cost anything to track. And then actually, once you get all that done, then there's a third site. So it's called Spotwalla. And then you can register your bubbler or your SW tracker or your spot device to that. And then people can actually watch where you're at and do it.
In real time?
In real time. Oh. Well, it's, it's delayed, but yes, more or less. Yeah. And so it's kind of cool. That's how they track a lot of the, like the Iron Butt competitions and everything. Now you can see where people are. And some of them even like will upload a picture now because they've kind of become part of this thing. So yeah, it's kind of cool. So those are GPS trackers. And what's really nice about those, and you and I have used Google, what's it called? Trace, not Trace. What's it called? Where you can go back and look where you were at.
Oh, the timeline.
Timeline, yeah. You can go back to Timeline and see the different places you've been. And you and I have used that a lot when we're kind of reflecting on the places where we've rode to. But this is kind of the next version higher of that, where you can really get a little more granular about the things you track. So just kind of more detailed tracking on the things on your trip. And so if you're kind of wanting to do a little more of that, it's a nice way to do it.
And so they don't integrate with the cameras now, or they?
Well, that was like back in the old digital days. You'd have to merge the fields together. And now people are just taking pictures with their iPhone or their Android device, and it has
GPS location
on it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of, I think it's just gone by the wayside, so this is kind of the only thing.
RideWise is the section we focus on planning and safety tips.
In today's RideWise segment, we're going to talk briefly about the importance of leaving space in between riders. And this is one of those things that we talk about where if you're in small groups, it might not be a big deal, but you start getting into those larger groups, and that's where it can be a little worrisome. And I know some of the larger groups like you to ride a little closer together, but always make sure that you are, aware of that stagger. Just, if something does happen, you've got just a little bit extra time to get past the person in front of you, or, to veer off. But then in general, when you are out riding on your own or even with a small group, look ahead to intersections. We see it every day that people, pull out of intersections without looking for motorcycles. We're not easy to see. Even with a bunch of lights on the front, sometimes we're just not easy to see.
Well, people are spacing off, people are texting, doing things, and that's what happens.
And we kind of blend in, we're a kind of a small segment, in someone's view. So just look ahead to those intersections. And
I will say that, I think definitely not too close. I would say close for comfort, but, you don't want to spread out too far either, though, because what then happens is people pull, they'll pull in between you, or they'll do certain things. I know at times there is a happy medium, and it's kind of, it's hard to find that, that happy spot, but because cars are I think people generally are cool about oh, you guys are riding together, stay together. But when you get pulled out so far, it is tough too. So I think it's just good to be conscious of it all.
It is. And then it's always nice, whether you're in the front or the back, just kind of keep an eye out for your fellow riders. If you see an animal out in the ditch, heading towards the road, I mean, that's, especially with a communicator on, say it through the communicators, stick your foot out, point in the direction, but always kind of watch out for each other and say, hey, I saw a deer and he's heading our way,
Well, and sometimes, what you're referring to is good from the front to the back, but the back to the front, that front guy's he's kind of watching nav, make sure we're going in the right direction. I'm always watching in the back. How far back are everyone? Are you going to see my turn signal? Are you going to see this? So it's on both ways too. For sure. The next segment is what we call the mile marker. It's our story segment. Now it's time for mile marker. Today we're going to talk about some coast to coast riding, and unfortunately not the coast to coast I want to do, which is ocean to ocean, but a fun ride that Turk and I took a few years back. There's at least 3 roads in Iowa that run from the west side to the east side. Well, I guess they run from east to west as well. It's not one way. It's gravel in Iowa, but it's not one way. No, we ended up a few years ago. He had some friends from work that were going to ride out to Sturgis, and so we rode out the day before Sturgis started, and the closest hotel they could find was Sioux Falls.
Oh, no
Sturgis.
kidding.
Yeah. That was the closest hotel available the night before. So we rode out there with them, stayed overnight, and then we turned around and came back. They went on. But we took, if you come out of Sioux Falls on Highway 11, which Sioux Falls is located just in the bottom southeast section of South Dakota and just touching the northwest section of Iowa. There's Highway 9, that's kind of the northmost east-west road in Iowa. And so we actually rode all in one day. Iowa's not that far, or not that big. We rode from South Dakota to Minnesota, and that was pretty cool. We rolled all the way. The first stop, we stopped actually for breakfast in Spirit Lake, Iowa.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Spirit Lake, Okoboji, pretty popular kind of recreation area out there in Iowa. A beautiful countryside.
Beautiful up there.
You go from a cornfield to this like amazing lake in like no time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great up there.
Polaris, I think, is actually in Spirit Lake as well.
Lake, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I was trying to remember where we went, but I was struggling.
Breakfast barn, maybe?
It wasn't the breakfast barn after looking on the
Toast on the Hill?
I thought it was Toast on the Hill, and then I saw the building. It was definitely not Toast on the Hill.
How about Okoboji's Pancake House?
That actually does sound really good, but I think that's what it was. We went back and looked on the maps, didn't we? And no, it was Coffee Cup.
Oh, the coffee
That's
cup.
where it was.
Oh, yeah.
Well, because I looked at all these, because I was like, okay, well, the one thing I remember is I had to walk in and back out because it wasn't big enough. It's like, if you're familiar with Casey's in Iowa, the old Casey's, it's about the size of their bathroom.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
No, beautiful, awesome place though. Just a little eclectic place. You're talking to everyone because everyone's table's so close together. You pretty much just having breakfast with everyone.
I think I've seen that place before.
Yeah,
it looks like a little red shed, doesn't it?
It's tiny. Yeah, it's a little red shed. And when I looked, I knew we parked it's got the parking lot's probably 7 times larger than the building. I don't know who else they share the parking lot with.
Well,
there's a church across the street. So
I bet it's the church.
Then they probably just go right to the coffee cup. So yeah. But also, if you're in Spirit Lake, you got to have a spud nut.
Oh, okay. What's a spud nut? I don't think I even
spud
know.
nuts. It's donuts. I'm not sure if I should have checked into the story, but I'm pretty sure the story is like maybe it was potato related at some point. There's a potato portion to the show, but yeah, if you're in Spirit Lake, you can't miss it. It bottlenecks down because it's near the bridge area when you're crossing between the lakes. And Windman Spud Nuts. Good coffee, great donuts.
So if I look up spud nut, am I going to see a donut? I mean, or is this a made up thing?
It depends on if you have your Google search restrictions on. You might get some other stuff. No, it's a real thing. I mean, that's the name. It's right on the side of the building. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So after Spirit Lake for breakfast, but then all these great little towns, and it's kind of cool and sad at the same time. Esterville is one of the towns that's up there. Buffalo Center, Forest City is a big city. Winnebago's there. You snake through Forest City, Manly, and then Cresco, and then Decorah, which, it's funny because you went to school in Decorah. I visited my son going to school there a lot, and we were always coming from north to south. Right. And it's just different when you're going from east to west when you go through it. And then it's really great. And right before Lansing, Lansing, before it goes over across the bridge, it's got a great sign that I just remember. It's 9 ends. It's done. Yeah. And then you turn on the bridge and you go.
Right in the river.
Yep. Well, you could go in the river if you weren't careful. But yeah, it was kind of a cool thing to do, honestly. We really enjoyed the ride. It was not hard. And I mean, I don't know.
Is it a 2-lane all the way?
It's 2-lane all the way.
All the way.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, there's some passing lanes like that once in a while. But yeah. So that got me thinking, too, about future potential rides for us. So I was on the very opposite, on the bottom side of the state, there's actually a Highway 2 that goes from Nebraska City almost to the river in Fort Madison. Gotcha. So I was thinking that'd be a good ride sometime. But I think you definitely have to ride over, stay overnight, and then come back because it's just probably too far to...
So really with 2 and with 9 and then Great River Road, you could kind of outline the whole state.
Yeah, you could take 29 if you wanted to, which would be a 4-lane. If you wanted to go around the state. I've actually looked at that before because, believe it or not, it's about 1,000 miles. So if we did that in 24 hours.
Not doing it. Not doing it.
You just never want to have
couple days. Let's go 2 days. I want to stop,
We will for fuel like 3 times.
No.
We're talking the whole time.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know if you could do it, honestly.
Those aren't high-speed roads.
They're not high-speed roads. I mean... And you really do need to average about 46 miles per hour for 24 hours if you want to make the 1,000 miles.
Wow.
So I don't know if you could do it. It would be interesting to try.
Let's not try. Let's outline the state and do it in 2 days. 3 days.
You start ahead. You go ahead.
Okay.
We'll catch up to you.
You catch me halfway around.
I looked at it. It's a complicated little route.
Yeah.
So while I was looking at this one, then I also noticed that Highway 3 goes from all the way from west to east as well.
Oh, yeah.
And that's about a third of the way down the state if you're just kind of thinking about it that way. That goes from Akron, Iowa to Dubuque. I did not know that Highway 3 went to Dubuque.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about it.
It must be a dirt road by the time it gets there.
Maybe so.
You know, what's crazy is we like Balltown.
Yeah.
And at one point in time, I'll probably talk about C9Y. C9Y is arguably the best road in Iowa. It's probably the most elevation change. 3 kicks out right about there. So I was kind of surprised when I looked at it. So that might be another option. What would be interesting is if, well, let's see. I'm trying to think how far. You might be able to do it if you rode 3 all the way over and then came down and rode the other one back or vice versa.
Came back on 2, you mean?
One way or the other.
Yeah. Okay.
You could hit both of them in one trip. All Iowa, all fun. All towns of about 500 people.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, you could take 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah, maybe we should take 1 to 2.
1 to 2.
To 3, back to 1, 51.
Yeah.
And then 5 minus 2 is 3. I don't. something may break if we keep thinking. So yeah, I mean, just interesting things. You have mentioned this before when we kind of build some of these rides out that we sometimes will look for a theme. You know, and you don't have to always go very far to get a great ride and a great road. So I think it's just thinking creatively and finding some things to do along the way. Again, that would be another great one, I think, to look up, you know, historical markers and maybe do a little more research before we go about what's happening. The podcast can be found on bestmotorcycleroads.com/podcast. All the information you need will be there. But you can subscribe on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple, Pocket Casts, and YouTube.
This is the interactive segment. We will be looking for input from you. We want you to send us your questions and suggestions for roads, topics, and anything else you have on your mind.
Today's roadside Q&A comes from Paul, and well, along with many others actually have asked, what should I expect when it comes to travel time?
Yeah.
So they're asking, I think, when you're planning a trip.
Right. It's a good question, actually.
And this isn't my idea. I've seen this before, but it, you know, it applies to us because
it's so good.
It happens. So you look at whatever the Google map says, however long it's going to take you, add 2 hours.
Right.
And then add another 30 minutes for each additional rider past 3.
Yeah, that's it was, I think, on a YouTube video that I saw that too, and I was like, oh, you can't. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, that's actually pretty about right.
It is.
I wish I remembered which one it was, like Dark Side Rider or something like that. Not Dark Side, because he probably didn't have a car tire on.
Right.
I'll if I think about it, I'll put it in the notes. But yeah, it's so smart to add like that, and I tell you, it will. It's the truth.
Yeah.
You know, and then you can't plan for rain, but that of course doesn't help.
Yeah, you're just going a little slower on the motorcycle because you're taking more fuel stops. You know, you're only going 120, 150 miles. You got to stretch your back out. So, and then, you know, as you're pulling in for fuel, you know, not everybody in your group can fuel at the same time. You have to kind of wait in line, and then people are stretching and eating and, you know, getting something to drink. And add 30 minutes for each person over a group of 3.
Well, it's not like I feel bad about saying it this way, but it really stinks because once you get off, then you don't want to really get right back on. You want to kind of stretch, and then somebody wants coffee, and it's like, it's tough. You know, it is tough.
Yeah.
So
again, if you're starting to, you know, take one of your first long distance trips, I would say, you know, limit yourself to 250, 300 miles. Yeah. Especially if you're going to do some winding roads. Yeah. You know, not interstates. I'm talking about, you know, 50 to 60 mile
two lane, county-ish.
Yeah. You know, the interstate, it's going to beat you up. It's boring. You don't get to see as much. You know, just, you know, you get dried out, you know, dehydration. Just avoid that. It's not much fun.
It's not.
It takes out a lot.
It's a good thing to do sometimes if you're feeling a little nervous about like 2-lane road riding. So I've got people that want to ride interstate because they don't want to have oncoming traffic. And I guess I get it. For me, the risk is worth taking those more fun country road style roads. But that is a thing. So, but I like where you're going with that, Todd. I think 300 miles in your first few trips a day is a good plan. You're not going to break any land speed records, but the more
That's not the
people you
point.
have, the harder it is going to be to hit it, especially if you're planning out those days ahead.
Yeah. And I'm probably going off track just a little bit here too. Also know your bike a little bit, so when that fuel light does come on.
Why are you trying to say that?
Somebody may have run out of fuel in this last trip. Not pointing any fingers, but he's sitting next to me right now.
Oh boy.
Know that, okay, when the light comes on, it'll say in your book, or you can look it up online, you have a gallon left, or you have 1.5 gallons left. Know that number, and then at slower speeds, you get better gas mileage.
Right.
At high speeds, you're going to, be reduced. So kind of have that number.
Well, it depends on where you're riding, and that's exactly what happened this time. Was we were riding, and I had 30. I thought I had about 30 miles of fuel left, and I did. Unfortunately, it was 31 miles to the gas station, and that's what happened, and we passed one, and this was part of a heavy traffic road, and should have just got the gas, but.
So what did you do? You have a heavy bike. You weren't pushing that one down the highway.
Well, heavy bike, automatic bike.
Oh yeah.
No clutch bike.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you do?
I just stopped. It stopped. Like I pushed a little while, but it was like once it shut down, then it wouldn't turn back on. It was in gear when it was kind of a mess.
Yeah. So did you have to go buy a gas can and?
Yeah. Well, luckily we're multiple riders, so Brad went and got gas.
Yeah.
We hit it, and then I went and got filled up all the way.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Lesson learned.
That was our first. I think we ran out, but oh well. It's another memory.
It's
right?
not the first we've run out. I've run out before.
You did?
Oh yeah. One of my first trips from Iowa to see my mom in the Chicago area, and I crossed over the Mississippi River. I thought I had plenty of fuel to get to the next stop. Well, there weren't any gas stops.
Right.
Light came on. I started looking, and I think I probably went 45 miles, and it just died, and that was it. Started to walk, and truck driver pulled over, said, "You want to ride?" He took me over to Dixon, Illinois, bought a gas can. I got a ride back.
That's awesome.
Yeah, what a pain.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, that's kind of a similar situation where you think, oh, I'll just go a little further. Get it.
Yeah.
Now it's time for the last mile. It's our way to close out the episode with reflections of today's talks. Todd, what do you got?
Well, I really enjoyed, hearing about that highway.
I thought you were going to say Spud Nuts.
Well, Spud Nuts, that area up in Spirit Lake. I've been up there in my car, but I haven't ridden up there. But now I really want to take that Highway 9 up there and head over that way. It sounds like a great road, and I'm going to put that on my to-do list here. Yep.
Yeah, and I would say the funny thing about it is there's nothing special about Highway 9. But there's something about like going from border to border without getting off a road. Mm-hmm. That was the thing that was cool. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. It seems weird, but it was just neat to say we just rode 9. That was what we rode today.
Yeah.
One road from side to side. So
sounds good.
That's why we got a ride from Copper Harbor to Miami sometime.
All right, it's on the list.
I forgot what number it was. But longest road, I think, but that can't be true. But might be.
Might be.
Sounds good. No one's checking. If this episode revved up your day, don't keep it to yourself. Like, subscribe, and share it with your crew. We're all about the thrill of the ride and the bond it creates.
Keep the spirit of adventure alive, and remember, bikes, friends, and endless roads. The stories ride forever. Take care.